One of the biggest developments over the last 5 years or so has been the arrival of AI, or machine learning software. Slowly but surely, AI features are being added to mainstream applications such as Adobe Photoshop, and there are applications such as Luminar AI that go all in on the machine learning. These competitive tools, AI and machine learning, are great. Is there a danger of becoming over-reliant on it? Do problems arise when we put too much trust in it? In today's video, I wanted to talk about some predictive software for photographers. Can this software beat photographic instincts and the knowledge learned from hard-won experience? I've been looking at some sunset and sunrise apps that try and take some of the guesswork out of predicting good colour in the sky. Are these tools useful? Will they help you take better pictures? Are they better at predicting banging sunset colour than your average photographer? Let's find out. Landscape photographers have different styles and tastes, but I don't think there are many who don't get a little bit pumped up when a sunrise or sunset turns into a full-on colour explosion. Personally speaking, it's one of the things I like photographing the most. I've been known to leave the evening meal steaming on the table or rush out and photograph a surprise sunset. Thankfully, I have an understanding wife who's grown used to my sudden disappearances over the years and wreaks her revenge on me by making me watch cat videos on TikTok. But I digress. Over the years, I built up a level of knowledge that enables me to make half-decent predictions about the likelihood of there being a decent sunrise or sunset. Nothing too flash, mind you. Just a bit of basic meteorological knowledge, specifically local weather systems here on the east coast of Australia, and the old faithful eye that I train on the sky a few hours beforehand. I also found that stroking my chin and looking like someone who's about to fart helps in this process. But you never really know how things are going to pan out until you're there. Sometimes, no matter how good the signs were, no matter how certain you are that the sky was going to explode in a technicoloured riot of deeply saturated oranges, pinks and purples, you get fuck all. And sometimes it tricks you and looks like it's really going to go off, and then it fizzes. And then there's the days when the forecast was terrible. The clouds are all wrong, the wind's blowing from the wrong direction, and it should have been greyer than an elephant's ball sack. But actually, the sky's on fire. My go-to tool for predicting good sunrise and sunset colour is windy.com. This is far and away the best online weather service and includes a neat forecast tool that enables you to see what the big forecast models are predicting in terms of low, medium and high level cloud. If you want to know more about using windy.com to predict sky colour, then click up here to see my video on that very subject. I also have the Clear Outside app installed, which is a neat app and one I recommend. The reason it's not in this little test is that I rarely use it these days because I prefer the more visual forecast data you get from windy.com. It shows the same low, medium and high cloud coverage data in a much more flexible map-based format rather than that grid number system you get in Clear Outside. The first sunrise and sunset prediction app I ever tested was called Sky Candy. This doesn't appear to have been updated in some time, however, and the developers may well have dropped it in favour of their newest app. Sky Candy gave you a simple percentage score to indicate whether or not the app's machine learning code predicted good skies or not. I can't say I was hugely surprised when I found it to be woeful at predicting sky colour, and I often found myself checking its score for comedy purposes alone. The best I can say about Sky Candy is that it sometimes gave you a very broad indication of possible sky colour. You couldn't really trust any score between 15% and 70%, but outside that it was sometimes right. Not exactly a glowing endorsement, I know. Now, to be honest, after Sky Candy, I kind of ignored this area of the App Store, but a recent poke around revealed a couple of newish apps that I downloaded out of curiosity. These were Alpenglow, Photocast and Helio. I've been checking their forecast scores over the last few weeks and comparing their predictions with the actual outcomes, and I wanted to share those results with you guys. Of the 3 apps I tested, Alpenglow was far and away the best. Had a daily score, full timings for blue hour, golden hour, etc., forecast up to a week ahead if you're ponying up $20 for the Pro version, a map complete with sunrise and sunset guidelines, custom locations, widgets and a notification system. Photocast is from the team behind Sky Candy, and spoiler alert, I thought it was crap. On the face of it, it offers similar features to Alpenglow, but it looks like it was coded by someone with a grudge against society. It has a truly horrible interface, a needlessly convoluted colour forecast indication system, and an interface with a colour scheme so vile that it forces you to squint at the display to make out the wording. I find it hard to believe anyone could come up with a worse combination of colours to display information with. There's some useful stuff in this app, such as a light pollution map, but looking at it gave me a migraine if I stared at it for more than a minute. The other app was Helio, which is similar to Sky Candy in that it only does one thing: display a percentage score for the quality of the next sunrise or sunset. It's a hell of a lot prettier than Sky Candy, but not actually that much more useful. You can add custom locations and view the different scores, but that's about the extent of its configurability. Now, unfortunately, I chose something of a challenging period of weather to test these apps out, since we're experiencing a persistently wet, cloudy and cool summer here on the east coast of Australia, and there were only 2 days within about a 3-week period that showed any promise whatsoever. This is one of the joys of a La Nina summer here in Australia. Okay, so the first day I put the software to the test was the 1st of December, which my own weather eye suggested might have some possibilities. On that day, the apps were pretty much in agreement, with Alpenglow offering a score of 16.8%, Photocast offering a score of 1 out of 10, and Helio coming in at 17%. And how do things actually look? Take a look for yourself. I should say that I strongly disagreed with all 3 of the forecast apps. When I looked to the sky 90 minutes before sunset, I could see high-level cloud and some gaps on the horizon. So I headed out, and while the colour of the sky prior to sunset, and in fact prior to about 10 minutes after sunset, was pretty average, it really came good after that, and there was a prolonged and colourful backlighting of the sky. If I'd have trusted those apps rather than my instincts, I wouldn't have scored any images. Now, I had to wait another week for any hint of the chance of a possibility of some colour in the sky, and during my regular checks of the apps I noticed a glimmer of hope for Tuesday the 7th of December. So on the 7th I checked Photocast around lunchtime that day, and it was showing a score of 10 out of 10. At the same time I checked the other apps, and Helio scored it at 37%, while Alpenglow went with a 36.9% chance. So Photocast was frothing at the quality of a forthcoming sunset, while the other 2 apps basically said meh. Now, I had long since resolved to head out on that particular evening, whatever happened, because it had been about a week since I'd taken a photo, but also because a storm had blown through earlier in the day, and I have a personal rule about always going out for sunset after a storm. I was pretty certain it was going to be a high quality sunset. I checked the other apps again. Helio's score hadn't changed, Alpenglow's had risen to 47.5%, and Photocast had gone from 10 out of 10 to 0. Now, as I was looking at the clouds, remember this is 90 minutes before sunset. I struggled to understand how Photocast's prediction could be justified. I was seeing nothing but the telltale signs of good sunset colour. Worse still, this prediction switch from Photocast occurred right when someone would probably be deciding whether to head out with the camera or to fire up Netflix. So I grabbed my camera gear and drove to my local beach. And here, my friends, is what happened next. So here's the test. This was 47.5% on Alpenglow. What do you think? Might be all right. There's a gap on the horizon down there, and a good possibility that we'll get some backlighting on these clouds here. I'd say it was probably better than a 47.5, to be honest with you. That's pretty damn lovely, isn't it? Got a long exposure going on the camera. 1 minute long exposure. Got the old K&F magnetic ND1000 and circular polarizer on the front. Hopefully we'll get some of these lovely reflections here and nice blurred out surf, and also some blur in the clouds because they are moving. Giving all the filters an outing today. Got the old K&F diffusion filter on there, the black mist, and this is how it looks straight out of the camera. Interesting, huh? And here are some of the photographs that I ended up with. Now, all things considered, I reckon that Alpenglow got its forecast closest to the reality. There was some backlighting which would have given rise to a more vibrant sunset, but a lot of the quality of that sunset scene was down to my choice of location. And if I hadn't had the reflective beach sand in my shots, it wouldn't have looked quite as special. So I'd say something around a 50% score was a pass mark from me, although I'd have said 60% was probably more on the money. Helio's score was on the low side too, but if you'd been checking it every day, it might have pointed you in the right direction. I think that app's main problem is that it uses data from the Sunset WX website, which is primarily focused on the American continent, with only secondary sky data for the rest of the world. Here's a screenshot of Sunset WX's forecast, and as you can see, getting an accurate sunset forecast based on sample data the size of the planet is problematic at best. And then there's Photocast, and well, we already know how that one panned out. Now, the funny thing is that Photocast uses the same Sunset WX data as Helio, and yet they served up very different forecasts. So what's the verdict on these apps then? Well, the main takeaway from all this is that you rely on software at your peril. I doubt the software will ever be able to offer the sort of local focus that is required to offer accurate sunset predictions, and you cannot beat experience, some basic weather knowledge, and an understanding of the weather systems local to your specific location. That being said, I reckon Alpenglow is a high quality app, and it's definitely one I'll be keeping on my iPhone. In fact, I ponied up for the Pro version. It offers a broad overview of the situation, and if you treat its forecasts as trends rather than definite predictions, then it's a useful planning tool. I've been checking its weekly forecast to see what the cloud trends are, and I keep a closer eye on the sky as those days approach. My own personal advice, however, for catching a good sunrise or sunset is simply to go out with your camera as often as possible, no matter what the forecasts are predicting, and in this way you can put the law of averages to work in your favour and enjoy some fresh air into the bargain. Alright, that's it for this video, guys. Have you tried any of these sunset sunrise predicting apps? Have you had any luck with them? Do you think I've been too harsh on them? Leave a comment down below and tell me what you think. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the old like button and subscribe if you want to be notified when there's more of this content available on my little channel. Cheerio, guys, till the next time.